Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're happy to present the 3Shape Orthodontic Labs webinar with Carl Horrocks. Carl has been working with 3Shape from the beginning of 2011 as a dental lab trainer, product specialist, and business development manager in lab scanner sales. Carl's introduction into the dental lab field came from his family's lab, which turned 95 years in 2016. Working hand in hand with his father, who has been a technician for over 40 years, has taught him the intricacies about being a dental lab technician. Thank you, Carl, and to 3Shape for joining us today. If you have any questions, please type them into the question box, and Carl will address them at the end of the webinar. Now I'm going to turn it over to Carl.
Great, thanks. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate everyone taking their time to come to today's webinar on the 3Shape Ortho products that we have to offer. We'll be mainly speaking about clear aligners. It's a hot topic in the industry, even for restorative labs to offer these new indications to their customers. There's been some new patents that are becoming available. There's some new software, and now 3Shape Labs can take advantage of using their lab scanner to scan in clear aligner cases. And we have a short presentation to highlight all of the features in the software and let you guys know where 3Shape is going in the clear aligner space. And then I have our clear aligner software up and ready to go. We'll run through a case, a trio scan from start to finish, and I'll show you all how easy it is to make clear aligners. We have some other options as well in case you don't want to do the design yourself. There are other design services that allows you to get designs done, but then you do the printing and aligner manufacturing local. So we'll just run through a quick presentation and then we'll dive deep into the software. So first up is why 3Shape? How does 3Shape play a role in this part of the business? Well, we have a great CAD/CAM solution. We have very fast scanners that have been documented accuracy, and we have software that meets all the needs to be done digitally. Some of the things that 3Shape brings to the table is our development force. About a third of 3Shape's employment are software developers. So we're always keeping the software to the best technology for our lab partners to use. And then just recently, we've come out with a whole new suite of scanners, ranging from entry-level, economical with the E1, and high-end production with the D2000. We also import our trio scan intraoral scans or any third party intraoral scan as well. Basically, it gives the lab the widest range of treatment workflows possible. So when thinking about, the company you want to partner with when going digital, the next question is why digital, or what can digital do for my lab? Well, we all know that digital is the future, just with any industry and any technology. And scanning is how you digitize your data or digitize the patient. And then using the software allows you to accurately, time efficiently design restorations or clear aligners in this case. And basically it comes down to you're using less material, your turnaround time's faster, less shipping costs, and at the end of the day, it's just an overall faster experience. But what it also does is allows you, the lab, to get competitive. It makes a competitive advantage for your lab over the analog lab that might be down the street. So going digital will allow your lab to, one, receive digital scans from your customers. So if your doctor goes with an intraoral scanner, doesn't matter which kind, having 3Shape software, you're able to accept that and retain their business. We have new services. For instance, if you go with our Ortho software, we have options to send files back and forth for review before it goes to manufacturing, reducing transportation costs, shipping costs, stuff like that. And again, it's just more accurate. So some of the competitive advantages about going digital. We have a great customer here, Chris at Bryn Mawr Ortho. He's been a 3Shape user for years, and he's had a big success with adding digital to his lab and getting more business from his doctors who are going intraorally. So it's great to see a local lab here in the U.S. Growing with the 3Shape Ortho software. Again, why digital? We spoke about getting a competitive advantage, but you also can leverage digital workflows. Obviously, designing cases digitally, it's easier. You can save and edit cases. Try doing that analog. We have tools where you can do bracket removals or tooth extractions digitally. And then, for instance, if the doctor calls you out and say, let's not extract that tooth, if you were to knock that tooth off a model, a working model, you were kind of done. Whereas digitally, you can just undo that task and start over. So there's a lot of good features with the digital workflow, and we know it's very similar, cost effective, faster turnaround time. But again, there's the little things like the undo button is a huge saver in the digital space. It just allows the technician to be more flexible with designing cases. So one aspect of this webinar is, leveraging digital workflows. Well, the workflow we're talking about is clear aligners. Again, it's a big buzz in the lab industry. If you've been to any of the trade shows this year, Chicago, IDS, there's a big ortho show coming up in a couple weeks, the AAO. Clear aligners is what everyone's talking about. And we're seeing even restorative labs, offering these indications as well. So what's the workflow when it comes to clear aligners in your lab? Well, it could be as easy as take the scan, whether you receive it from an intraoral scanner or you scan the model in or impression physically. You can just send that scan to a design service. There's design services like Full Contour that have doctors on staff. They design the case. They can do consulting with your doctors for case approval. And then when the case is done designed, they send you back the STL files where you in the lab can utilize your 3D printer, print the models, vacuum form, suck down to make the aligners, finish the case, and then provide the doctor aligners. And that means your lab is actually not doing any of the design. You're just scanning in, sending to a design service, receiving those STL files, printing, suck down, finish, packaging. And we see a lot of restorative labs going that route. And it's a great way to get your feet wet. It's really no overhead needed. If you already have a scanner and a printer, you're going to utilize that with more indications. But for the next level of lab who wants to do their own design, we have design software that allows the lab to do setups themselves locally, produce STL files locally, print locally, and vacuum form finish aligners. So that's basically the workflow. It's similar to a crown and bridge workflow, whether you're going to outsource the design or do the design in-house, but we're now doing with aligners. Now, most of the time and most of the cases done this way are, what's typically known as the social six. We don't want to, mess with posterior bites. It's small anterior movements. that, the patients have come in and, wanted some ortho corrections. And this allows you guys to take that part of the business. And we've seen a lot of labs successfully doing just your social 6 movements. And it's very easy to get into that workflow. Yeah, that's basically the overview of the workflow. It's very simple, and we'll see that live in the demo coming up. Now, the next thing, the third question, why go digital? Grow your business. I mentioned this earlier. When one of your doctors buys an intraoral scanner, and you as a lab are still analog, there's really nothing you can do with that customer. You might lose that customer. So having lab software, perhaps a lab scanner as well, will allow you to retain that business, accept those intraoral scans, and then continue with that relationship. But with other business opportunities, as an ortho lab, when you do go digital, you can offer services as model storage, model cleanup with bracket removal, simple stuff like that. You can have a great business plan by just doing model storage, bracket removal, model printing, stuff like that. And then you can go to the next step with clear aligners. Again, growing your business. We've had a big lab up in the New England area that was going 3Shape. They've seen a huge growth with their business, specifically in why going digital. You can attract new potential customers, and we have a Trios Ortho Ready program that you can participate in, that gets your name out to Trios doctors to choose you as a ortho lab to send their cases to. And again, why choose 3Shape Orthodontics? Again, 3Shape, we have superior scanning technology. Our restorative lab scanner is the leading market share of lab scanners out there. Documented accuracy, speed with impression scanning is very key. And what makes it fast and accurate is we have 5 megapixel cameras in our scanners. 3 models have 2 5-megapixel cameras. We have 2 model scanners that have 4 megapixel cameras, 4 5-megapixel cameras. So it basically gives you the most accurate and reliable scan out there. So these are some of the highlights of what the 3Shape lab scanner can bring. Again, fast, reliable, accurate scanning. Taking a look at all 5 scanners that 3Shape has to offer, we have our E1 scanner, which is a great ortho scanner. It's 10 microns of accuracy, very economical. That'd be an entry-level scanner. And then all the way to the right with our R2000 scanner, or also known as a D2000, very fast, accurate. This is a production scanner. Big labs that are scanning in lots of cases tend to gravitate to the 2000. Now this year, 3Shape, we came out with a brand new scanner. It's the E4. Great success at Chicago and at the IDS. It's just another add-on to the E-series family, but it's a very fast, accurate scanner at 4 microns. So this is our scanner portfolio. We're very proud to meet all the demands that labs have, entry level all the way to production. We feel like it's a great portfolio when choosing to go digital. Now, again, we talked about receiving intraoral scans. Well, 3Shape has a great intraoral scanner, Trios. Again, documented accuracy. Having a lab scanner or lab software, you'll be able to input and accept all those intraoral files. Just taking a breakdown of what the lab software can do other than clear aligners. We have an appliance software that you can make splints or metal bands and we have analyzing software where you can plan and help treat cases. And being in an open ecosystem allows you to take in any intraoral scan, whether it's an iTero or a 3M, as long as that third-party intraoral scan produces an STL file, you can bring that into 3Shape. And just thinking about all the open ecosystems, again, we have opportunities to connect with design services. I said about importing third-party intraoral scans, working with 3D printers. So anything you design out of 3Shape will work with a 3D printer. We produce an STL file. So we always wrap up the last page of any 3Shape presentation with, when choosing 3Shape, you're providing your dentists who are providing the patients with superior care, and we're changing dentistry together. So that's a quick run through of 3Shape Ortho Lab presentation. And now I'm going to close down our presentation, and I'm going to open up our Ortho Analyzer software. This is gonna give you guys an overview of how a lab can produce a clear aligner. So here we have a raw Trios STL file in color. So what we're going to do first is we have to base our case first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare our scan. So in doing so, we're going to follow the workflow on the top workflow bar, and on the left-hand side are tools and steps that we need to do. So I need to mark 3 points on our scan to do the occlusal plane. I draw in our midline, and now the software has an idea of where our base orientation is going to go. The next thing we're going to do is trim our scan. So I'm just doing a series of left clicks to trim it. You have the ability to grab and move each dot. And now we're going to come into our lower arch for a trim. So we're basing our first scan because when we open this scan up to do our clear aligners and move our teeth around, the software is going to export a series of STL substeps, incremental movements of teeth that we've done in each model. So when the software exports all of our STL files, if the first one that we're working on is based, that means all additional STL files will be based. So it'll be easier to go to the printer. So that's how easy it is to base an ortho case in 3Shape. We're done. This is based, so I'm just going to click next. Then it gives us some opportunity that we can sculpt on this. This is where we can come in and do bracket removal if we needed to. But for this, we're just going to skip over the upper and lower models because there's no need to prepare it any further. So we're going to hit done. Done's going to save the case. It's going to produce that file as an STL. And if I needed to do just study models, that's it. We're done with this case. But we're actually going to open up and go in and do a clear aligner case. So I'm going to right click on my case and I'm going to say open model set. So opening up the model brings us into our Ortho Analyzer. If you're familiar with 3Shape's Ortho Analyzer, this gives you the ability to do measurements, do treatment setups, do a variety of different ortho-related topics. But we have a brand new icon under treatment, which is on the left side. It's got a little clear aligner icon. When I click on that, the software is going to automatically bring in an make my own clear aligner workflow, which is up at the top. Some of these steps we've done already in the model process, but we're just going to click next through it because we already have our occlusal plane. We already have our sagittal plane when we drew our midline. And basically now it's going to walk us to step number 2, which is segmentation. So today in 3Shape, we have it's a half, I would call it half manual, half automated segmentation. So all we need to do is we need to tell the software if we're missing any teeth. And on the left-hand side, I just told the software I'm missing our wisdom teeth. And I'm going to start on tooth number 2. So all we have to do to segment is left-click 2 points on every tooth. The widest point. This is going to help the software find our cut line to segment our teeth from our model. So to move teeth around, each tooth has to be its own file, its own individual file, and that's what we're assisting the software in right now. So again, I'm just left-clicking and following our arch. You can see when I'm done on the left-hand side, all of the teeth in the arch are green. That means I've done everything. I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to let the software remove and make each tooth its own STL file for us to then be able to move in the treatment process. Let's redefine this one here. We want to do the widest point of each tooth. All right, so now the software calculates cut lines around each tooth, and it does a really good job. I'm just taking a look around at all these cut lines, and it looks pretty good. Oh, there's one I just got to touch up. So I'll highlight that, and I'll just gradually move these dots just over a little bit. And yeah, pretty happy with that. So one minor adjustment. Oh, maybe one more on this lateral here, just to make it look nice and pretty for our clear aligners. But that's about it. We're going to say next. Software is then going to remove all the teeth. It's going to give us an opportunity to sculpt on them or use a smoothing tool. Not necessarily. Again, 3Shape always provides sculpting tools throughout all of our processes. And this is just where the sculpting tool is in the clear aligner setup. So now I can actually remove the base, and now you can see that all the teeth are their own files. So we're happy with that. We're going to say next. Next, we can remove the base. We can see this is all, these red lines are all the axis points where our teeth are going to rotate or position around when we do our clear aligner. So we say that looks great. So basically say next. And now we do the same with the lower arch. So I'm going to tell the software we're missing our wisdom teeth. And now we're going to go through and segment our lower arch. And again, we're just clicking on the widest part of each tooth, just all the way around the arch. And then we're going to go through the same process we did with our upper arch to let the software automatically cut and trim each tooth from the base, create an STL file, and then we're finished up with the segmentation portion of our clear aligner case. Okay, we're done. And I'm looking at all of our splines here. and it looks really good. Lowercase looks very good, no adjustments needed. So we're going to follow up, we're going to say next. Again, we're going to let the software do its thing. There's algorithms running in the background that are trimming all these teeth away from the base. Again, like I said, creating our STL files and sectioning out our teeth, so then we can move them freely in the planning part of the workflow. Some of the other things on the workflow at the left-hand side, when we go into sculpting, again, we have the ability to do bracket removal with the artifact tool, our sculpt toolkit, which if you're a restorative lab is what you use on day-to-day when designing crowns. But for the most part, we're not going to touch anything here. We're going to hit next. We're going to come into our rotational center. This is where we can see all of our paths of insertions for each tooth individually. It does a good job of that. No need to adjust. We're going to say next. Okay, so a couple of things the software does automatically. It automatically measures each tooth width, and it adds those tooth widths up to do a overall arch length. And we see this on the left-hand side. So it's doing, even though we're doing 2 points to help the software section each tooth, it's adding those up as well. And we can type in an ideal arch date and time. Just let the software know that this is the date and time we're actually going to plan this case. So we're going to say next. Next, we can come in and draw in a helpful arch guideline. You can do a custom one like I'm doing here, where it helps to do your setup. There's other options to measure, but basically it's pretty much what most use this tool for. And when we come into the treatment planning part of this, which we're almost there, I can bring up a view and see where my ideal arch curve is. After that, we can see both of them, and we're good to go. All right, so when we hit next, we are now in the clear aligner virtual setup. This is our virtual setup. This is the software we're going to move teeth around. We have some tools on the left-hand side. The first one is our movement tool. I'll just go through those quickly. So when you click on a tooth, it's active, it's blue. That means it's active. We get our rotational handles where we can rotate around or drag and stretch. Drag and move, not stretching, sorry. That's our movement tool. We have a tooth extraction tool. So maybe if we needed to create some more space, we highlight a tooth, we hit extract, and the software will automatically remove that tooth. Now, the beauty about digital, I made a mistake. Maybe the doctor just calls me up and say, hey, we're going to actually keep that tooth. We don't need to make as much space. You have the ability to undo that as well. So I can say undo, and the software will add that tooth right back, which is kind of cool. Next tool we have is tooth stripping. So some IPR. We have the ability to have the software remove some interproximal reduction. Next tool along the way are attachment tools. So in case you needed to place a little button or some sort of attachment, we have the ability to add any series of attachments from our attachment library. Now, The next set of tools on the left, they're just measuring tools, distance measure point to point, edit the tissue if needed. So basically those are basically the tools that we have working on for our clear aligner. Now, most time we're going to be using our tooth movement tool. This is the tool that we're going to click on teeth, rotate, drag, move around to do our setup. Now, to help with our setup, there are some special tools on our slider menu on the upper right where we can see mirroring tools. So where was that tool before? So here on the lingual side, that was where we started, and then the blue is where we wound up. And every time I click on a tooth, it'll show me where I was and then where I wound up. And you know, we can come in and rotate. Now I'm doing this all freehand. If you'd like, in our tooth movement box here, you can type in values. So you can type in different degrees to move one degree at a time. Distances, you can have the software move in increments of, 0.1 mils to make fine movements. So we have a lot of different options to help set up these cases. Now, the next thing we can do to help set up our case is I can bring in our lower arch, and on the left-hand side, I can choose Perform Collision Detection. Collision detection is going to show me, when I turn the slider on, where we are in contact. So I can see where we are in contact, and it's very intuitive. So if I move a tooth in, it's going to automatically show me where we're hitting. And I said, oh, that's too much. Let's undo this case or that tooth. So I can hit undo, and it goes right back to where it needed to be. So let's, I think the upper arch looks pretty good. I can bring in my custom arch that we made in the previous step that helps us set this case up. So we can see that. We can turn that on and off. But basically, let's come in and work on our lower arch. We might need we got a little anterior crowding going on, where we can come in, move some teeth around. Now, I am not an orthodontist. I am just showing everyone the tools and capabilities of what our software can do. But for the most part, you come in, rotate, make some space. Maybe for the lower arch, we needed to do a little IPR, but for the most part, we're just going to run through this case just to show you guys all the bells and whistles what the software is capable of doing. So more rotation here. All right, so say I'm pretty happy with that setup. We take a look at our upper arch. Move things around a little bit. Yeah. The other thing too that's nice is even though we're working off of a trio scan, we also have the ability to turn off the color as well. So sometimes technicians like to change to a different color or shade in the scan, just so sometimes the shadowing might be easier to see and whatnot. But for the most part, pretty happy with this case. So next, what I might want to do is run it through our virtual articulator. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we have a virtual articulator. We can choose from a series of articulators in our menu. Also gives us the ability to open or close bites as well. And the software will run through its excursions. Great. We can turn the view of that off. We can open up. We can see if we're in any contact. So, I mean, for the most part, demonstration purposes, we're happy with this case. We're going to close out of the articulator. Now, when it comes to figuring out how many trays we need, how many aligners we need to make, I'm going to take a look at our tooth movement overview. The bottom of this box here is a button that says Tooth Movement Overview. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to see all of the teeth that we've touched in our treatment, both upper and lower. And I can take a look and see maybe the largest movement we've done is, if I can see this, is 1.2 mils we moved a tooth by. And we can see the largest degree, maybe 7, this one here, we moved 10 degrees. Typically, a treatment, you're going to move a tooth 1/4 mil per treatment, or a degree or two if it's an angle change. So what we can do is I can come in to, on the top left-hand side, there's an icon that lets us know how many sub-steps to make, how many treatments to make this case. And if, 1.2 was the max movement, and I want to move a tooth 1/4 mil per treatment, software proposes that a sub-step count of 5 to get to the end result. So this will make 5 aligners for us. So I can say, yeah, it's great. I can say, okay. The software will then make 5 STL models. It also produces a really nice setup and staging timeline chart. So this is letting us know throughout each sub-step what's happening. And this timeline, and it's moving to our ideal setup. Now, if I did any IPR or added any attachments, we'd be able to see when to do the stripping or when to place the attachment or remove attachment in this chart. But since we just did a really simple staging of a social 6 case, it's just letting us know where this timeline is set up. So we can close that down. So next, what we'll do is we can export. So up on the top left-hand corner, we have some export features. These will export STL files. But before we do that, there's also a really neat play button. And I'll just zoom in a little bit. When I hit the play button, this will bring us into our original scan, and then the software will move in incremental movements, and it'll create a small little video that we can save as well. So I'll do that again. So here's our final. when I hit the play button, it then brings us to our original scan and then moves us through our incremental changes. And we'll show that, I'll show that with our lower scan as well. Get a nice occlusal shot of this. And I'll hit the play button. Very cool. The more sub-steps you have in the movement, the longer the video will be. All right. Now you might be thinking, there's a lot to this. Is there any precautions I might want to think about before I start, moving teeth? Yes, there is. There are constraints that can be enabled in the control panel. So on the left-hand side, we have a per aligner constraint that lets you know the breakdown of how much each tooth will be moving by, and each tooth from our calculations will be moving about 1/4 mil and rotating about 2 degrees for treatment. And then also we have some tooth constraints. So if I just have an example of a tooth constraint. When I come in to move a tooth, it will only allow me to move in the certain degrees. I'm not sure what our example would be here, but sometimes you put a constraint, to a certain movement, so you can't move past that far movement. It's just kind of a safety almost. So again, we're going to wrap up with this case. We're going to hit our export button. The software is going to then bring up our save box, where we're going to save our upper and lower models in STL format. This is the step where if you really need to send these to your printing computer for where the CAM software is, you can designate where this path goes. So for the most part, we're going to hit export. And we're going to let the software create STL files of each incremental movement. Being that it's trying to generate 5 model sets, so 10 models into STL files, I wouldn't say there's a lot of time, but it takes a minute or two for the software to generate, find the folder, and place those STL files in that folder. So in the meantime, what we'll do is I'll go to that folder. I have a similar case that I did earlier, just to show you, where the cases go. So they go to my ortho data folder. Here's my case. I just did a case, an earlier case this morning. Models. Here are my STL models. So my STL of the first one, substep 1, subset 2, subset 3, all the way down to my last substep. And the software also gives you all the STL files of the teeth we segmented. So when we did our segmentation, the software saves each tooth as an STL file, and it saves the model, upper and lower models, in STL file as well. So jumping back into the ortho software, we're about 60% exported. So again, we'll let this software do its thing. For the most part, we're done with this clear aligner case. Just wanted to show you guys the bells and whistles of our clear aligner studio case. So while this generates in the background, now it's time for a little Q&A. We got another 10 minutes or so. I can stay on the line and answer questions. So we have one question about indirect bonding trays. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go over indirect bonding with today's webinar, but I do want to highlight we have a lot of great training videos on our 3Shape YouTube channel. So in particular, it's 3Shape training at YouTube. We have a ton of videos on all of our software. We just updated them with clear aligner videos, so feel free to go there and take a look at everything, you know, all of our training videos on YouTube, and there will be some indirect bonding tray videos. Again, we're done with this exporting. I'll just jump to the folder to show you, you know, where those STL files are. We just went there recently. This was the first one we did. Here are the videos that we generated. We generated 3 videos. So there they are. You can grab them. You can send them to your doctors. Next, under models, again, here are model substeps. Each substep has your upper and lower models in STL format. And again, just to show you guys where everything is. Great. A couple other questions come in. Is this the 2018 or 2019 software? So this is the 2019 software. The 2019 software is very similar to the 2018, except 19 has this new button that I'm showing you right now, the clear aligner button with the workflow. That's in 19. You can technically design a clear aligner in 2018, but you'd have to do the steps yourselves, meaning there's no workflow bar at the top. There would be, you'd have to come into the preparation step and do that yourself. You would then have to come into the arch analysis and do that yourself. And then you'd come into the treatment, or what we call virtual setup. In 2019, you could click on the clear aligner icon and it walks you through that workflow. So it's a little bit easier. There are a couple other updates, like the timeline chart. That's new to 19. But for the most part, the majority of what I showed you today is available in 18. 2019 has released, if I'm not mistaken. So contact who you bought your software from and get an update as well. Next question, why is one tooth in the scan a different color? Not sure. Maybe I'll jump on to text trios. I know there might be a little amalgam filling, or lower arch all looks the same. Not sure. Maybe it was when I was moving teeth around, the active tooth is blue. Let's see. Is ID tags displayed on each subset of model? I'm not 100% sure if the ID tags get placed on the model. I do know a lot of CAM softwares do that. So if you open these up and load them into CAM software, there's usually an option to put an ID tag. I know previously we were working on that function. I don't know if it's to market. Sorry, I mainly work on a restorative software, but I know the ortho software, so giving you guys the webinar today. I know that's on the development timeline. I don't know if it's to market yet or not, but I know shortly there will be. And one other question, can you show me the timeline feature? Yep, so let's open that up. Now this is a simple case. The timeline feature might be a little bit vague. But if we were placing attachments, if we were doing IPR, if we were doing, I guess they're all doing the same rotation as well. But again, I totally recommend going to our YouTube channel, specifically clear aligners. I know we've had webinars in the past, so wealth of knowledge there. Or at the end of the day, you can always email the Zahn team to get some of these questions answered. Other than that, any other questions? I hope we all learned something today. I'd like to thank everyone for taking their time, registering and showing up to the webinar. So thank you. Hopefully.
So thank you so much for joining, everyone. Have a great day.